Every weird thing a billionaire does, the obsessive routines, the strange diets, the billions spent on not dying, it all traces back to one single thing. These aren't quirks. They're not productivity hacks. Each one is the same engine, a total, wired-in refusal to accept the world as it is. Control over time, control over the body, control over death itself. And once you see that pattern, you can't unsee it. It's underneath every single name on this list. And honestly, it explains more about how the modern world got built than any business book ever will. 12 billionaires, 12 habits, one uncomfortable truth at the end of all of them. Let's count it down. Number 12, Mark Zuckerberg, the MMA obsession. Most people know about the gray t-shirt. We're not doing the gray t-shirt. What most people don't know is that Mark Zuckerberg, in his 40s, running the largest social network on Earth, became obsessively dedicated to mixed martial arts training. Not casually, not for fitness, obsessively. He trained with professional UFC fighters. He competed in actual jiu-jitsu tournaments under his real name, not under a fake identity, not in private. He showed up, registered, and competed against people who had no idea the guy trying to choke them out was worth over $100 billion. He won matches by submission, from controlling attention online to controlling outcomes in a fight. The platform is just a different kind of mat. There's something deeply fascinating about a man whose company has been accused of making people feel socially inadequate, spending his personal time learning how to physically dominate other humans in close-range combat. That's not a hobby. That's a very specific message to the universe. And here's the psychological layer. Zuckerberg has spent his entire career being criticized, regulated, dragged in front of Congress, mocked in movies. He cannot control public opinion. He cannot control governments. But inside that mat, he controls exactly what happens. Every outcome is his. MMA wasn't fitness, it was therapy. But this is where things start getting unusual. Number 11, Mukesh Ambani, the house that broke reality. Mukesh Ambani, the richest person in Asia, worth over $100 billion, built a house. Except calling it a house is like calling the ocean a puddle. It's called Antilia. It stands 27 floors tall in the middle of Mumbai. It has 3 helipads on the roof. It has a dedicated snow room, a room that generates artificial snow so that his family can experience snowfall in a tropical city. Floor to ceiling white, silent, cold. In the middle of one of the most densely populated, heat-soaked cities on Earth. You don't look at it, you experience it. It has 6 floors of parking, a ballroom, multiple swimming pools, a private movie theater, a health center with full medical staff, and it requires approximately 600 full-time staff members to operate. Every single day, 600 people, just to keep the lights on and the snow room running. To put that in perspective, the Palace of Versailles, which housed French royalty and their entire court for over a century, employed roughly the same number of staff. Mukesh Ambani has a Versailles energy in 2024, in the middle of a city. Now here's the psychological part most people gloss over. Ambani didn't build Antilia because he needed the space. He built it as a visible, permanent, impossible to ignore declaration of arrival. In a country where wealth inequality is severe and visible, he made his wealth the most visible thing in the entire skyline. Whether you read that as aspiration or provocation depends entirely on where you're standing when you look up. And this next one shifts gears completely. Number 10, Warren Buffett, the stock market breakfast system. If you're worth over $130 billion, what do you eat for breakfast? Warren Buffett eats McDonald's every single morning. He drives himself. He spends no more than $3.17. But here's the part that separates this from a quirky story. His order depends on how the stock market is performing that morning. Good day? Bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit, $2.72. Okay day? Sausage, egg, and cheese, $2.61. Bad day? Plain sausage patty, $1.40. That's not breakfast. That's market sentiment on a plate. This man, who manages more money than most countries produce in a year, has built a personal financial indicator into his fast food order. He cannot fully disconnect from market performance even for the 3 minutes it takes to decide what to eat. That's not a routine. That's a man who never fully leaves the game. He also drinks 5 Coca-Colas a day and has done so for decades. His stated logic: he checked the data, noticed kids consume the most sugar, and kids are the happiest demographic, so he decided to eat like a 6-year-old for the rest of his life. His own family stopped questioning this years ago, and he's in his 90s, absolutely thriving, sharp as ever. So either the entire health and wellness industry has been lying to us for 50 years, or Warren Buffett is simply operating on a different biological firmware than the rest of us. Either way, unsettling. But here's the part nobody talks about. Number 9. Tim Cook. The invisible morning. Tim Cook, CEO of Apple, wakes up at 3:45 in the morning. Not for a flight, not during a product launch. Every single day, he is reading user emails. Not summaries, not highlights, actual emails from real Apple customers. Before 4 a.m., he's in the gym before the sun has made any kind of commitment to showing up. His public reason is simple. Early morning is his quiet time, before the world wakes up and starts pulling at him from every direction. But here's what makes this genuinely interesting. Apple is one of the most secretive companies in the world. Tim Cook runs it with extraordinary precision. Every product launch, every supply chain decision, every public statement is controlled with surgical tightness, and the way he protects that control is by starting every single day 2 hours before anyone else does. By the time most executives are having their first coffee, Cook has already processed information, exercised, and made his first round of decisions. He arrives at every moment in his day having already been awake for hours. 3:45 a.m. isn't morning, though. Let's be honest about that. That is a time slot reserved for bad decisions and raccoons. Nothing healthy happens at 3:45 a.m. for normal human beings. That hour belongs to insomnia and gas stations. Apple is the most valuable company in human history, so maybe he's right, and the rest of us are sleeping through our potential. Or maybe he simply cannot stop, and this is what that inability looks like with good PR. Number 8. Oprah Winfrey. The psychological armor. This one sounds gentle. Don't let that fool you. Oprah Winfrey has kept a daily gratitude journal for over 30 years. Every single day, 5 specific, concrete things she was grateful for that day. Not general feelings, real, grounded moments. She has said repeatedly that this single habit is more responsible for her success than any business decision she ever made. Now, journaling sounds soft, almost too simple to mention alongside people sleeping in server rooms. But pay close attention to the context here. Oprah built her empire inside an industry specifically engineered to make people feel like they are not enough. Television, magazines, diet culture. The entire business model of that world runs on manufactured insecurity. The product is inadequate. The fuel is a comparison. And the woman running it was deliberately, every single morning, training her brain to feel complete. That's not wellness content. That is psychological armor built brick by brick over 3 decades, worn daily, in public. The neuroscience behind this is actually solid. Consistent gratitude practice physically rewires neural pathways over time. It changes your emotional baseline. Your brain gets measurably better at recognizing positive experience because you've been drilling it like a skill. Most of us have started a journal at least once. I wrote in it for 3 days, lost it under something, found it a year later, read one entry and immediately closed it. Oprah did it for 30 years without missing a day. The habit isn't the variable, the 30 years is. Number 7. Jeff Bezos. The Wander Protocol. Jeff Bezos built one of the most efficient and ruthless logistics operations in human history. His personal morning routine involves wandering around his house with no plan, no meetings before 10 a.m., no rushed schedule. He potters around, read newspapers, physical newspapers, drink coffee slowly, has breakfast with his family, just exists in the morning without an agenda. He has called this his most important productivity tool. His logic is precise. The quality of a CEO's decisions matters far more than the quantity. One sharp, well-rested, fully present decision is worth more than 20 rushed ones. So he guards his cognitive state in the morning, the way a surgeon guards his hands before an operation. He called it puttering. His words. The founder of a company that processes millions of packages a day putters. He protects his peace, then sells productivity to the rest of the world. And here's the slightly darker angle. That perfectly preserved, optimally rested, completely undisturbed morning brain was the brain that designed the productivity systems inside Amazon warehouses. Systems where workers were monitored by algorithm, where bathroom breaks were tracked, where the efficiency expectations were so extreme that staff reportedly had to run between stations. He protected his own cognitive peace completely. The people inside his machine operated under very different conditions. Rest, when wielded strategically, can be one of the most powerful tools a person has. Depends entirely on what you do with it when you're done. And this is where we cross into different territory. Number 6. Jack Dorsey. The body as a lab experiment. Jack Dorsey, co-founder of Twitter and Square, treated his own body like a research project he was running on himself. The full routine: wake at 5 a.m., 2 hours of meditation, walk 5 miles to work, specifically walk, no car, fast on alternate days, 1 meal per day on eating days, daily ice baths, infrared sauna sessions, and no food after 6 p.m., 1 meal a day, for months at a time. When he talked about this publicly, he described how fasting created clarity, how hunger sharpened his perception, how going without food made him feel more present, more focused, more in control. Doctors and nutritionists heard this and immediately wrote concerned public responses. But then comes the part that takes this from extreme to genuinely fascinating. Twice a year, Dorsey would disappear into a 10-day silent Vipassana meditation retreat. No speaking, no phone, no internet, no contact with the outside world. Complete and total disconnection. For 10 consecutive days, Jack Dorsey, running 2 companies, on a platform where everything moves in real time, gone. Some called this irresponsible. The CEO of a major platform vanished for 10 days. Others said it was the most self-aware thing a tech executive had ever done. Here's what I actually think. Both things are true simultaneously, and Dorsey knew it. At some point, this stops being optimization and starts looking like survival. The ice baths, the walking, the fasting, the silence, none of that is wellness culture performance. That is a man managing internal pressure so extreme that without constant, aggressive physical intervention, the whole system starts to overheat. The habits weren't the goal. They were the pressure valve. And when a pressure valve is the only thing holding something together, the question is never if it breaks, it's when. We watch that answer play out. On Twitter, in real time. Stay with me. The next ones change everything. If this is landing for you right now, subscribe before you forget, because what's coming in the next 4 sections doesn't just get stranger. Number 5. Steve Jobs. The reality distortion engine. Steve Jobs had a habit that his colleagues, engineers, and closest advisors documented repeatedly and could never fully explain or defend against. They called it the reality distortion field. When Jobs wanted something done, something engineers said was physically impossible, something that violated deadlines, budgets, or basic technical limitations, he would simply reject reality and insist otherwise, with total, unshakable conviction, until the people around him started to believe it too, and then they'd do it. People who worked with him described leaving conversations where he had genuinely convinced them that something impossible was achievable, only to walk out of the room, regain their senses, and realize nothing had actually changed about the constraints, but somehow they'd make it happen anyway. That's not charisma. That's a cognitive weapon. He also went through extended phases of eating nothing but one type of fruit for weeks at a time: apples, carrots, orange juice. Pure, singular obsession applied to diet. His stated theory, publicly to colleagues, was that an extreme fruit-only diet would prevent his body from producing body odor, and therefore, he wouldn't need to shower as frequently. His colleagues had to tell him directly, on multiple occasions, that this theory was wrong. But connect these 2 things, the reality distortion field and the fruit diet, and what you're actually seeing is one brain at work. A mind so committed to its own model of how things should work that it would override external feedback when that feedback didn't match the internal vision. That same override that made him insist impossible products were possible also made him insist the fruit diet was working when it clearly wasn't. The weapon and the flaw were built from the same code. He also once forced a team of engineers to completely redesign a component hidden permanently inside a computer, a part no user would ever see. He said the inside of a machine should be just as beautiful as the outside. The engineers spent weeks on it. Nobody ever saw it. He didn't care. It had to be right. That's not perfectionism. That's a man whose internal standard had fully decoupled from external validation. And that is both the most terrifying and most impressive thing a creative mind can do. Number 4. Peter Thiel. The escape hatch. Peter Thiel, PayPal co-founder, early Facebook investor, one of the most influential figures in Silicon Valley, has a habit of planning for total civilizational collapse, in detail, with real money, as a primary life strategy. He acquired New Zealand citizenship and purchased significant land there. Specifically, he has said, as a potential sanctuary in the event of a global catastrophe, political collapse, pandemic, social unrest, whatever the next extinction-level problem turns out to be. When journalists asked him about this, he didn't deny it or laugh it off. He confirmed it. He said New Zealand represented the kind of isolated, stable, low-population geography that made sense as an option when the rest of the world gets complicated. He's not the only Silicon Valley billionaire with a bunker strategy, but he's one of the few who said it out loud. He also reportedly explored parabiosis, the practice of transfusing plasma from younger, healthier donors into an older recipient to potentially slow the biological aging process. When that story broke in the press, the reactions ranged from scientific curiosity to absolute horror. He didn't confirm or deny the specific claims, but he has been openly interested in life extension research for years. He invested in companies working on longevity. He has said publicly that he considers death to be a problem, not a natural conclusion, but a problem, an engineering problem, with a potential solution. Here's the psychological profile that emerges when you put all of this together. Peter Thiel looks at civilization and sees fragility. He looks at the human body and sees a machine with a defect. He looks at death and sees a bug in the code. He is building escape routes from the world, from aging, from mortality. Most people call that paranoia. He calls it preparation, and the unsettling truth is, he has the resources to actually build the escape routes, which means the distinction between paranoia and preparation might be nothing more than a question of net worth. And this one gets even darker. Number 3. Larry Ellison, the man who bought an island. Larry Ellison, co-founder of Oracle, one of the longest-running major tech fortunes, has a particular relationship with the concept of scale. He didn't just buy a house, he bought the island of Lanai in Hawaii, 98% of an entire Hawaiian island. He owns it, not a resort, not a property, the island. He then proceeded to build an authentic Japanese village on it. Tea houses, gardens, architecture, the complete aesthetic of a specific period of Japanese culture, reconstructed from scratch on a private Hawaiian island by an American tech billionaire. Because why not? He has also been one of the most consistent funders of anti-aging research in Silicon Valley history. Long before longevity became a trendy investment category, he has said that death is, to him, fundamentally incomprehensible, like asking him to accept a math equation that doesn't resolve. It doesn't compute. It refuses to register as an acceptable outcome. He said, and I want you to really hear this, that death represents a failure that simply hasn't been solved yet. He's been funding people to solve it for decades. Think about the worldview required to reach that conclusion. To look at something that has been universally true for every human being who has ever existed. That's not arrogance. That's a specific type of pattern recognition that simply does not accept precedent as proof. It's the same brain that built Oracle. That never accepted, this is how software works as a ceiling. The problem is, that brain doesn't know where to stop applying itself, and death is a very large target. Number 2, Elon Musk, the last human standing. Elon Musk's habits have been documented extensively. Sleeping on factory floors, the 100 to 20-hour weeks, the couch in the server room. All of it is real, all of it confirmed. But let's go one level deeper. Musk has said that he experiences something he calls idiot index anxiety, a persistent, low-level terror that the people around him are not moving fast enough. They are the questions that the people funding this research are going to force the rest of the world to answer, whether the rest of the world is ready or not. That time is being wasted. That somewhere, in some meeting room, someone is explaining something that could be summarized in 10 seconds. He reportedly interrupts meetings to calculate manufacturing costs in real time. He has fired engineers on the spot for answers he found insufficiently precise. He has texted employees at 2 in the morning expecting immediate responses. This isn't a work style. It's a physiological state that never turns off. And the reason, which he has actually articulated publicly, is that he genuinely believes humanity is on a deadline. He doesn't talk about building companies. He talks about species survival, about the window of time in which humans have to become multiplanetary before some catastrophic event closes that window permanently. He sees every wasted hour as a statistical increase in the probability of human extinction. That sounds extreme. It is extreme. But it also explains every single behavior pattern. Sleeping at work, the refusal to slow down, the obsessive pace, the borderline impossible expectations he sets for the people around him. If you genuinely believed that the window for saving the human species was limited, and you genuinely believed you were one of a small number of people with the resources to do something about it, what would your morning look like? Probably not gentle. He bought a social media company for $44 billion, in part because he believed controlling a major global communication platform was strategically important for the future of civilization. Most people buy companies to make money. He bought one to manage the information environment of a species he's trying to keep alive. That's not ambition. That's a different category of thinking entirely. And now, number 1. The billionaire war against death. Pull the thread on everything you've just heard. The gray shirt, the McDonald's breakfast system, the 5-mile walks, the fruit diet, the island, the New Zealand bunker, the factory floor couch, the 10-day silence. Every single habit in this video, at its core, is the same impulse wearing a different outfit. The wealthiest people alive have moved to the final frontier of that control. They are trying to end death. Jeff Bezos invested in Altos Labs, a biotech company with one specific mission: reverse the biological aging process at the cellular level. Not slow it, not manage it, reverse it. Turn back the clock inside your actual cells. Peter Thiel explored transfusing younger plasma into his bloodstream to slow the process. He funded longevity researchers. He said death is a problem. Larry Ellison has bankrolled anti-aging science for decades and called mortality incomprehensible. And Elon Musk, who wants to die on Mars specifically, has said he doesn't see Earth as home. He sees it as a single point of failure. One pandemic, one catastrophic century, and the whole experiment ends. He wants a second copy, a backup of the species stored somewhere else. Most people accept death. Billionaires schedule meetings to fix it. Let that sentence breathe for a second. They're not chasing success anymore. They're negotiating with time itself. Every major civilization in human history has built its meaning system around the fact that life ends. Every religion, every philosophy, every piece of art, music, and literature that has ever moved a human being, at some level, is about making peace with mortality. The Egyptians built pyramids to decorate it symbolically. The Greeks wrote about it constantly. Every major spiritual tradition on Earth has a framework for accepting it. And this group, with enough money to actually fund a resistance, looked at the single most universal human experience across all of recorded time and said, no, we'll fix this. Now, here's what makes this genuinely complicated. They might not be wrong to try. If aging is a biological process, and it is, then it is, technically, a problem with a potential solution. Cells degrade, telomeres shorten, proteins misfold. These are measurable physical events, not metaphysical inevitabilities. Physical events have physical causes. The science is real. The research is advancing. So the question isn't whether they're delusional. The question is, what happens to meaning if they succeed? If death becomes optional, a condition you treat rather than a fate you accept, what happens to everything built on the assumption that it isn't? What happens to urgency, to sacrifice, to the entire human framework of what do you do with a life that doesn't end? These aren't rhetorical questions. Everything you just heard, the obsessive routines, the strange diets, the island, the factories, the silence retreats, the funding of immortality funding, it all comes from exactly one place: a fundamental, wired-in, unshakable refusal to accept the world as it is. Normal people, and I say this with real respect, learn to make peace with what they cannot control. That is called wisdom. That is emotional intelligence. That is how you build a life that feels livable and full and human. But these people built what they built precisely because they could never make that peace. They looked at the broken thing and couldn't stop until it was fixed. They heard, "This is just how it works," and experienced it as a personal insult. They felt the friction of limitation, and instead of adapting to it, they removed it. The gray shirt is controlled. The 3:45 a.m. alarm is controlled. The ice bath is controlled. The island is controlled. The immortality research is controlled. Same engine, different machines. And here's the uncomfortable truth sitting at the end of all of this. That engine, that specific, relentless, often lonely inability to accept limits, created rockets. It created the iPhone. It created companies that employ millions of people and technologies that genuinely changed how the world works. And it also created isolation, broken families, severed relationships, destroying health. At least one man who died alone in a blacked-out hotel room, surrounded by jars, having not left the building in years. The same thing that builds the empire is the same thing that never lets them live inside it. That's the part that doesn't make the profiles, that doesn't show up in the Forbes interviews or the TED Talks or the authorized biographies, pointed in a productive direction. And we built the modern world on top of it, and maybe that's the real price of becoming one of them. And don't lie. Which one actually stopped you? Drop it below. I'm reading everything. Subscribe. I'll see you there.